Okay, it is time to call this meeting to order. If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Recording in progress.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have a little business to do, but in the meantime, if anyone is here to speak at the public hearing, there is a sign-up if you just come up and just put your name down. And that will be next. First order of business is to approve the minutes from May 8th trustee meeting and also the May 25th Board of Trustees workshop meeting. May I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. I do have one adjustment on the May 25th. On the back page, there's a line that says, Trustees discussed progress on the New York Forward Grant, a Village Walkability. And I just wanted to add, and Village Walk, oh, got it, okay. So, yes, just change that to and, that will do. So with that adjustment, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. That's done. Okay, we now are going to go to the continuation of the public hearing for Local Law B of 2023, the local law to regulate animal husbandry, hens, and honeybees. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Hello.
There's a mic here. Oh, okay. Just keep talking.
Okay. I'm Paulina Malikin at 25 Fisk.
I'm Paul Sturts from 25 Fisk.
Thank you for the work on the animal husbandry law. And we haven't had that much time to keep working on this, but we did think about the setbacks and the regulations about how many animals per acre, and we just wanted to bring that up because when we did our well, do you want to do that part?
Yeah, initially we thought that the 200-foot setback made sense, and then when we started doing the math, unless it's a square lot, for a 2-acre lot, for instance, it just makes it so the run is kind of absurdly small.
That's the center, right in the middle of the lot. It just is.
There's not much flexibility. You'd have to, unless it's a square and you put your run right in the middle of the lot, you're basically, you could be looking at a run that's only 40 or 50 feet at times. So I guess we're advocating there be some flexibility based on who the neighbors are, et cetera, and getting sign-offs from them. So that was one consideration. The second one had to do with the number of animals per acre. I think the last time we did talk about, most goat experts feel like 135 square feet is adequate for forage. The way this is written, it would be 1.5 acres per goat, and it's just a little too small. I think we talked about last time the goats being social animals. That would be a cruel thing to have, just one animal for a 2-acre plot, or even I guess it would go all the way up to 2.99 acres. So we're wanting that to be looked at a little more closely.
Just to clarify, we made 2 adjustments from the initial law that was proposed. I see in the copy that I have, the lot line boundary didn't change to what we intended to change it to, so it is intended to be 75 feet from each
Okay,
lot.
we hadn't had time to review the amendments.
Yeah, we looked at your lot, and it isn't workable at 100, and so it really didn't make sense. So we went, I'm pretty sure it was 75 is what we had gone to. Was it 100?
It was 100, but, I mean, it's...
Oh, was it 100? Oh, it was
75
200.
actually?
Yeah, 1, 2.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, so we cut
it
it
was
in
what
half. Okay, got it. You're right, it did
It
go to...
was 200 or 200, yeah.
It was 200 before. Yeah, this, and, yeah, okay, my apologies. Too many numbers of late. Then ignore that statement. The other statement is to say that what we did,
100 is better than 200.
yes.
So.
In the current proposed law, it is, for smaller animals, it's 2 per 1.5 acres.
Okay,
It's not one. So if you have a
Great.
large animal, one that's over 250 pounds at full maturity, then
Yeah.
it would be 1 per 1.5 acres. So it's a 2.
yeah, that's what we were hoping for. Seems much more reasonable. All right.
And we want a trip to Disneyland.
Not sure we can help you with that one.
Thank you for all your work on this. I know that it only applies to a small number of people, but I think those people are really grateful. So thank you.
Anyone else who would like to make comments for the public hearing?
Are you going to read in that comment about the bees, or is that...
I will. Yes, I can do that. Yes. I even have my stuff together. So I just wanted to confirm there was no one else who wanted to make a comment who's here.
Sorry, can I just say one more thing?
Yes, absolutely.
As we're so focused on our goats, but I do want to just speak in favor of the chickens and the bees. And I totally understand that there are people who have allergies to bees, but bees are a natural part of our ecosystem and do swarm, and there are hives everywhere. And I think there's ways for neighbors to figure out how to keep bees and take care of their family and get their honey and not affect other people. Honeybees don't generally attack either, so I think it's a valid concern, but I think it's one that can be addressed safely and has been done in many communities elsewhere. And I just think it's important, like I think in your work you've obviously addressed this, but I think we have so much normalcy around dogs, which are quite dangerous in their own way potentially, and like how loud they are and how their poop is so toxic, and we've normalized that and figured out ways to address that. I think the same can be done for other animals that have historically had deep relationships with people and have, been domesticated. So just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. We did receive comments from Bob Busher and Raina Cattleson of 58 Fraley Street, and I'll just read it into the record. Thank you. Let's see. We are very pleased that the village is considering a law that would allow and regulate keeping honeybees, hens, and other small farm animals. Our agricultural surroundings are an essential part of the character of the village. The ability to live in closer proximity to the animal world and to care for creatures on a daily basis is an important way to forge a healthy connection to the environment. We're writing, however, to suggest a modification to the section that regulates honeybees. Honeybees and other pollinators are an essential part of our food cycle that is experiencing extreme stress. It is important to encourage their promotion wherever possible. Raina and I maintain a hive on our property and have extensively read about and observed their behavior. We feel that limiting the keeping of bees to lots of 20,000 or more is a mistake, and they should be permitted on smaller lots. The 20,000 limit shows a misunderstanding of bee behavior. Bees disperse very quickly once they have left the hive and will fly up to 3 miles in search of forage. They can safely be raised even in dense urban areas without any risk to neighbors. The size of the lot is immaterial. Instead, the distance from the lot line is of greater relevance where neighbors may be concerned. Obviously, a hive located at the same distance from a lot line will have the same activity regardless if the rest of the property is 1/10 of an acre or 10 acres. We recommend you drop the lot size limit and instead focus on the distances from the borders of the property. A hive should be located in a sunny spot and as the proposed ordinance states, should point away from nearby property lines. But limiting them to 75 feet from a street and 25 feet from a neighbor is unnecessarily restrictive. Bees fly directly out from the front of their hive and at an upward angle. There is virtually no activity behind or to the sides of the hive. If bees turn to fly in the opposite direction, they do so at a higher altitude. Within 15 feet of the front of a hive, the activity is so diffuse it is almost unobservable. We suggest that the law should be rewritten to allow bees on lots as small as 10,000 square feet, and that they should be faced away from the nearest property line and no closer than 30 feet from a street and 15 feet from a side yard or rear yard. The law should keep the requirement for a fence or dense vegetative screen between the hive and the nearest line, but drop the requirements for screening at the sides unless the hive is located near a corner of lot. Thank you for your time and consideration of our suggestions. So with that, what I would like to do is discuss with you, the board, how you're feeling about the commentary on the bees in particular, to start with. And because if we are considering doing a significant reduction in, like, to go from 75, even if we went from 75 square feet from a public road down to 30, that's a significant drop. And if we do that, we should probably extend the public hearing to our workshop. But I'm wondering how you're all feeling.
It seems, reasonable based upon what Bob had mentioned and doing some reading that perhaps some adjustment to what we had initially may be appropriate. I don't know that I have a position on whether, the 75, is too far or the 30 is too close, but, I'm certainly open to, discussing that further. One of the things in reading, that many municipalities, in suburban or even urban areas have with bees, which, would probably be worth considering if we're looking to retool some of the language, would be some sort of a notification process where send notice to your neighbors and kind of a more formal registration than I think was kind of envisioned in what, I know we have something in there, but.
I think we have two things. One is you need to get a permit from the, I believe it's the code enforcement officer, if I remember correctly. And the other is you need to have a sign that's 20 feet from your hive, letting people know that there's a beehive right there.
But what some places have, similar to what we do for zoning, where you have to notify neighbors within a certain radius that you're planning to do this, along with your application, would be kind of the difference between what we have and what may be worth considering, especially if we're shrinking those lines where it may become more noticeable to neighbors.
Okay. Anyone else have some thoughts they'd like to share?
I mean, it seems like his feedback is based in science, so I think it's valuable to consider it. I don't know. 75 to 30 and 25 to 15. Those are both pretty big drops. But if scientifically they don't go backwards, they'll always go in front, it makes sense to adjust it and also leave open a public hearing in case other people have issues with that.
Okay.
I would say, I know somebody had mentioned their wife has an allergy to bees, and, I myself am allergic to bees, and so I've done some research into it. But knowing that, the trajectory of an entry is about 15 feet, keeping the 30, which is double the amount of the space that they need, to me, I feel comfortable with. And I think that would address any sort of navigation of, where bees go, because, around here you can get stung pretty much. If you step on a clover, if you're barefoot, because we're in fact invading their space. But the ways that honeybees are specifically, not necessarily wasps or other similar creatures. But I would be fine with lowering the distance from the lines.
Okay, so it sounds like we should extend the public hearing to our workshop, which is June 22nd. So may I have a motion to extend the public hearing to June 22nd?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Terrific. Okay, so we will make some adjustments. We will put it out there. Need to think that through. But we will extend the public hearing, and then we will make that change. We will propose that change. Well, actually, we should decide what change we want to make, because we need to get that out there. So, we have 70, so it's currently 75 feet from a public road. We've had a recommendation of changing it to 30 feet. Is everyone okay with the 30 feet? I see two nods.
The question I have, when you look at where a house is positioned, obviously, again, many yards, not all of them, certainly in the village, we're talking about in the backyard, so I think if we're talking about rear yard, almost everything would be
The 30 feet would be from a
from the
public
road.
road.
Right, and the road generally would be in front of most houses. So it seems like, if I were looking at my house, having it in the front yard would clear 30 feet, and that seems like maybe it's a little close.
And the opening of the hive would have to be not towards the road. It would, frankly, for the most part, it's going to have to be sort of angled towards your house. So thinking of your yard, you're not going to put it in the front anyway, you'd put it in the back.
Right.
Because it really wouldn't make sense to put it in the front. Is it more than 30 feet from the road to your front door? Okay. So you're feeling that 30 feet is not enough?
Like I said before, I'm not sure that I have a number in mind. That just seems, even though the 15 feet, kind of from entry, 30 feet from the road seems, and from a public, passageway seems close to me.
Okay.
Would 50 feel reasonable?
I think that, yeah, certainly.
Okay.
I was going to say, if we did with the, sort of math being that the bees take about 15 feet to enter, exit their hive, if we include words about including a 15-foot entrance, and then the hive is off, so it would offset about giving the space a little bit. It wouldn't really set it back, but acknowledging that it would need a radius around the hive. Or is that still the same?
That feels complex. I think we want to make it as simple as possible, because each plot is going to be different as to where you put it. Someone's not, if someone was going to do beekeeping on your plot, they're not going to put it, because they would have to face it at the house.
Right.
So which means the bees would be coming right at you when you came out the door. So you would logically put it in the backyard. But you're looking at that as the amount of space.
Right, just thinking about the amount of space and the 15 feet. Again, I don't know what the trajectory is and the height. It just seems, as a minimum, while that might work, it, may introduce some issues and, a little bit further. Certainly amenable to reducing it from the 75, which is excessive, but.
Okay, so we've got we're going down from 75, but 30 might be too. Anybody else have a thought? I mean, Mel Corker, you mentioned 50.
Yeah, 50 sounds okay to me. What I'm wondering is, it's a 20,000 square feet, right? It has to have a minimum of that?
Right, which is
about a
just shy of half an acre.
If we were to diagram that out, we're not saying that it can't be done. I mean,
Correct.
50 feet or 30 feet, I understand would be, I was just wondering if, yeah,
Charlie?
that was my
Just
thought.
randomly clicking on parcels in parcel access to look at lot sizes and
Because they also suggested that we should make it open to anybody, even if you have less than a half acre.
And we could do that if we're comfortable, I mean, if we do setbacks. I mean, his point is, the lot size doesn't matter if you have setbacks, so, and that is actually a reasonable point. So that might argue for a slightly larger setback, and then opening it up to any parcel that can fit with those setbacks. So if we did 50 feet from a public sidewalk, alley, street, or road, and what from a side yard? 30? Right now we have 25. We could leave it at 25 from the side yard.
So that's from a neighbor's lot
Yeah.
line?
Yep.
That sounds good to me.
And the hive has to angle in. It can't angle towards the neighbor. And everything I've heard from different people regarding beekeeping is that bees come in and out their opening. They don't sort of hover around it. They come in, they go out, and that's it. So where opening is what really matters.
I mean, what we're worried about is if someone was, like Kim was allergic and they had a hive coming in next door, right? So 25 feels safe to you, Kim?
It does, knowing that like bees, they don't hang out in the yard. Like if it was an animal that would stay locally to like close to the hive, like if they were going to hang out on that half acre that the hive was allowed, but the bee's going to fly a couple miles away in search of food. So to me, the location of the home doesn't necessarily, like, I'm not going to be walking up next to it. And I think because we do say there's a sign, like you have to have a postage sign saying there's a beehive, like bees exist in the awareness. Anybody I think who has an allergy to it will know to stay away, and I would feel comfortable having bees as my neighbors. Also knowing I would get probably a really great garden.
So 25 is what was initially proposed, 15 is what he wanted, or
Yeah, so what
suggested.
I'm hearing from the discussion is perhaps we eliminate the lot size requirement, and we leave the setbacks to be 50 feet from this public sidewalk, alley, street, road, and leave it at 25 feet from the side or rear lot. And then does that sound logical? And then so we've eliminated the lot size requirement. We're changing the one from 75 to 50 and leaving 25 the way it is. And then the other question that Steve brought up was whether or not we add an element of notifying the neighbors.
To clarify on that, Steve, were you talking about just like a notification of intent? Like, I'm planning on getting bees just so you're aware? Do you have any input, or is it?
Just a notification, it's the same way if you're planning to do any kind of, substantial work or need a zoning variance, you need to notify neighbors within a certain radius, just so you would know, that there's going to be a beehive. It was something that a number of municipalities have in their code, and it didn't seem unreasonable, but I'm not wedded to the idea of necessarily having
Yeah,
it.
and I was going to say, the way that would work, because it's subject to a beekeeping permit that comes from the code enforcement officer, when the application comes in, then the building department would mail a notice to the contiguous property owners, just indicating that
okay.
their neighbor has applied for a bee permit.
Got it.
Okay, I can certainly ask that question. We would need to add the right language, but if we agree that we'd like to add that language, we can then get the right language and put it in here.
Yeah, I would agree to that. And I got a letter from a lawyer, from the client's lawyer, or the, applicants recently, so I do think that's the way it's done. Sorry.
Okay. So add notification to neighbors. Okay. So I'm thinking that I should, well, then the other question that has come up is the question of the setback for the animal husbandry. We did change it from 200 to 100 for the setback. Do we want to consider reducing it to 75, or are we happy leaving it at 100?
What is 100? If you do
So
scale like
football field?
a football field? Mm-hmm. That's a lot in the village, isn't it?
It's 100 yards.
Oh, sorry, it's 100 yards.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would
Well,
be
you know, it's
300
100.
feet.
You know, come on, that was the test. You passed the test.
It's a third of a football field.
There you go.
My eyes got very wide.
It's a third, so that'd be what, 35-yard line? 33-yard line?
Here, on this particular lot.
I know that I did look at your parcel on Fisk Street, and with the 100, there, you're right, it's a square, but it is a reasonable square that's in the center of their lot. If you have a long, thin property, you really can't,
Yeah.
because you end up with literally nothing. I think there's one lot that it just doesn't work, but it's a very thin lot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the whole point of having the law for me is so that the animals are, you know, that they have enough and we can make sure that everybody is, that they're treated humanely. So like the idea of setting it back to the point that they have a very, very restricted pen is less appealing to me. But,
So that sounds like you'd be in favor of moving to 75. Charlie, I think I know your answer. You'd,
Yeah,
Let's
I
say
mean,
it.
I was pleased that we reduced it to 100 feet because without doing that, we were pretty much restricting any animal husbandry anywhere. So I'd certainly be in favor of 75 feet.
I'm comfortable with 75 feet for the smaller animals. You know, the bigger ones, which potentially, you know, over the 250 pounds, where there's a bigger impact, maybe leaving it at that for larger animals.
recognize that with the bigger animals, there are less of them, so you'd have
True, but-
one for 1.5 acre.
But certainly, you know, 75 doesn't seem unreasonable.
I'm completely okay with a smaller setback.
Okay, all right. I think 75 is probably okay for the time being. Okay, so I'm going to ask for a motion to make the following adjustments to the law on the animal husbandry, 200-18.1, A1, to reduce the setback from 100 to 75. Under the keeping of honeybees, which is 200-18.1C. Number 2, we would eliminate the statement that says beekeeping is not permitted on a lot smaller than 20,000 square feet. And we will, under number 3, we would reduce the setback from the public sidewalk from 75 to 50. And we will add a notification of the neighbors. I'm happy to make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. So the next part of the process for this, local law is that we have to do an environmental assessment form. I do have our land use attorney coming. She'll be here shortly. So we are going to proceed with other business before and then when she gets here, we will come back to reviewing and proceeding with local law A, which is the law to permit internally illuminated window signs. And then we will not be passing local law B for animal husbandry tonight, but we can go through the environmental assessment form, and if we find we can have a negative declaration passed this evening. So I'm just going to move that a little farther down the agenda. And I'm going to move to the next item on the agenda, which is related to appointments. And the first appointment is mine to make. And And I will start with, Trustee Kjarval has been a dedicated trustee from the moment she was elected. Always looking for ways to ensure that our village tax dollars are spent effectively and efficiently. She has also been working on projects from the beginning to improve the overall experience of living, working, and visiting our village. She and a small team took over the planning and execution of Hardscrabble Day after I became mayor in mid-2021, making it a celebration of our local community. This team created Neighbors' Nights, which is a simple gathering of neighbors to help enhance our sense of community and just helping neighbors get to know their neighbors. She has also worked tirelessly on improving communications and transparency by overhauling the village website, creating the police department site, working with me to establish a monthly newsletter, and always asking how we can improve communications. Under my authority as mayor, I am appointing Trustee Mayor Melkorka Kjarval to be Deputy Mayor for the Village of Red Hook, effective immediately. We all know that filling the shoes that former Deputy Mayor Brent Kowalczyk left behind in March is an impossible task. I know that Trustee Kjarval will bring her own unique shoes to the task, and I look forward to continuing to work with her now as Deputy Mayor.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Okay, now on to the simpler tasks. I have a resolution authorizing the appointment of fire inspector, zoning and code enforcement officers, building inspectors, and deputies. Whereas, under Village Law 3-303, the mayor appoints, with board approval, a fire inspector, zoning enforcement officer, code enforcement officer, and building inspector, and whereas there has been a change in responsibilities for these positions, and whereas the board has authorized the hiring of Z3 consultants to provide zoning enforcement, code enforcement, and building inspection services for the village, now therefore be it resolved, the board approves the mayor's new appointments as listed below. Fire inspector, Clark Kimball. Building inspector, code and zoning enforcement officer, Gary Beck. Deputy building inspector and code enforcement officer, William Jahosky. Deputy zoning enforcement officer, Thomas Keith. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Second?
No, second.
Thank you, Charlie. Any questions, discussion?
It's resolution number 22.
Resolution number 22. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you very much. The next item we have is a resolution to declare certain equipment to be surplus. Whereas certain equipment and material has become obsolete or determined to no longer be of use to the village, whereas the village would like to sell this equipment and materials at auction to recoup any money possible, whereas the village has received 2 offers for our 3 extra 2,000-gallon septic tanks, which are significantly below the village's purchase price. Now therefore be it resolved, the following items to be declared surplus and put up for auction at the next convenient opportunity. One is a 2011 Chevrolet Tahoe police vehicle with no motor that has been out of service for several years. A U.S. saw track cutting pipe saw, purchased about 10 years ago, no longer used. 3 2,000-gallon septic tanks not used for the sewer project due to certain changes for certain properties. Return not an option. And then lastly, approximately 50 fiberglass risers for septic tanks from an excess shipment for the sewer project. No future use foreseen for this many extras. These 3 septic tanks will have a minimum bid added to them based on the offers the village has already received. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Charlie. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions? Discussion?
Is there an estimated range for what these items might realize?
No, I do not have a range. I think for example, the fiberglass risers, it depends. It's going to depend on if someone's got a project and they see this as being useful. Just so you know, we have, this is not everything. We are holding back several. And the police vehicles it's a tricky market right now. So it's possible that could net some money. I mean, obviously it has no motor. You'd have to put a motor in it. But So but I really, I do not have a number.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, certainly it's good, moving on items which aren't needed.
Is there a designated account? Is it going to the funds raised go into the general fund, or would they sort of be portioned out from where they originated from?
That's a good question. I think in the past, we've put it into sale of used equipment or something, like there is a line item for that
Okay.
under revenue. So I think it probably would go under that, and then we can choose, depending on what comes in, we can choose where we would like to designate it for a budget item.
Okay.
Any other questions, issues, discussion? Okay.
What is a riser?
So the tanks, so the tanks are actually set below the ground level.
Yeah.
And so this is at the, one of the openings of the tank that goes up.
Got it.
And so that's one that has a lid on it. You'll note there are
Okay.
no lids here. Jake wanted to keep all the lids.
Just in case.
But so that this system has the pump and basket goes in that riser.
Got it, okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, great. Resolution 23 was that one we just did. Okay, so that makes this one resolution number 24. Resolution to raise non-union village employee wages. Whereas certain village employees are not under a union contract, whereas said village employees have earned a raise in pay through dedication to their work and length of service. Whereas the union employees receive a 2.5% increase as of June 1, 2023. Now therefore be it resolved that the following employees will receive a 2.5% increase as of June 1, 2023. Clerk to the Justice Rebecca Kent, going from $21 an hour to $21.53. Police and building clerk and typist Lara Hart from $26.22 an hour to $26.88 an hour. Village clerk Jennifer Kavanaugh from $20.54 an hour to $21.05 an hour. Deputy clerk special projects Doris Balashik Schuing from $18.10 per hour to $18.55 per hour. And then part-time laborer Zachary Simmons from $16.70 an hour to $17.12 an hour. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions, discussion?
I do have a question.
Yes.
What was was there a previous increase set already in place? Like,
Not for the non-union village employees.
Okay.
It generally is based on what the union contract percentage increase, but it doesn't happen automatically because there's no contract.
got it.
Any other questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you. Just an extra thank you to all the hard work that our employees do. Okay. There are no budget adjustments this evening. We will, because our fiscal year ended the end of May, we are working on finalizing all that is coming in, et cetera, and so we will probably have a whole series of budget adjustments at our next meeting. And Victoria's not here, so no, we're going to do that down here. Let's move on to committee reports. So the treasurer's report. From our excellent treasurer, Lori Urban.
Good evening, Board. Following is the Treasurer's Report for June 12th, 2023. Account balances. Madam Clerk. Can you hear me okay if I keep talking?
Yep.
Okay, great. So account balances as of May 31st, 2023. General fund, $657,056.29. Water fund, $326,329.54. Their payroll clearing account, $35,383.03. Sewer fund, $58,254.11. Hard Scrabble, $8,580.60. Village Green, $7,674.32. Health insurance, $3,969.72. And we have petty cash, $60.83. The reserve checking balances, Fire Department, $5,056.05. Police, $14,651. USDA, $134,638.38. Highway, $26,303.16. Snow Reserve, $3,294.09. Tower Reserve, $17,790.34. Unemployment Reserve, $4,564.37. Court Reserve, $3,313.29. And Office Reserve is $976.85. Our monthly expenses for May were out of the general fund, $214,773.16. From the water fund, we spent $70,494.62. Payroll clearing account, $1,592.33. And the sewer account, $1,261,756.06.
And obviously those sewer expenses are related to the construction project. May I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved?
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Lori. Okay. Oops. All right, the next item are my reports. I will start with police and law enforcement. And in my report, I will start with Patrick Hildenbrand and Travis Sterrett were sworn in by the Honorable Judge Treeboisser as lieutenant and sergeant respectively as of the Village of Red Hook Police Department on May 30th, 2023 in Village Hall. Their new positions are effective as of June 1, 2023. Congratulations to them both. They are a tribute to themselves, their families, and the Village of Red Hook. We look forward to their continued service to our community. Lieutenant Hildenbrand and I are meeting with the Lexipol representative in early June to begin the process of engaging and installing the Lexipol software. This project will include a review of all of our police policies. Lexipol provides guidance regarding any new laws that would require changes to our policy. I will have more information to share with you next month. We have not yet met. It's happening this week. I will take this moment to mention, I believe many of you have heard that there was an incident in the town of Red Hook last Thursday where a dog rushed two Red Hook Police Department officers. One officer discharged his weapon, hitting the dog, who later died. There is an ongoing investigation. Once complete, more information will be made available. The next, and then incidents. In the month of May, there were 347 incidents, 217 in the Village of Red Hook, 108 in the town of Red Hook, and 22 in the Village of Tivoli. And just as a note, in those 217 incidents in the village, that includes the water infrastructure security patrol, that's a total of 106 incidents. So incidents isn't quite the right word for that. And there were 90 uniform traffic tickets. In the Village of Red Hook, there were 34. Town of Red Hook, there were 38. And in the Village of Tivoli, there were 18. Parking tickets, there were 6 in the Village of Red Hook, none in the town of Red Hook, and 1 in the Village of Tivoli. There were 6 arrests, 4 in the Village of Red Hook, 1 in the town of Red Hook, and 1 in the Village of Tivoli.
Can I ask a question?
You may.
The school resource officer, that's also underneath village, right? Even though they're not all-
Yes, actually, I believe that is correct.
I wonder if it makes sense to pull that out at some point.
Yes,
that we can kind of-
I would not disagree with that notion. This is a report, and I know you and I have talked about it.
Yeah.
This is a report that I think we could, for school resource officer, it's by day. And we have a school resource officer in 2 places. So one at Mill Road Primary and one overseeing both the high school and the middle school. And so there's a total of 34 incidents, which is basically patrols, if you will. But yes.
Because they're done by contract, less than just area, right? So
Oh,
it's-
that's
yeah.
true. Actually, that's an interesting point. Yeah, we could look at that. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions so far? Okay, fire department. Take a deep breath. Let me finish my fire report. For the fire department, I did reach out to the fire department in April to begin our contract renewal discussions. I am waiting for their response. I do have an incident report for the month of May. In the village, there were 22 calls. 11 of them were EMS-type calls. 7 were alarms. And outside the village in the month of May, there were a total of 53 calls. 30 of them were EMS-type calls. 16 of them were alarms. Those two categories are the majority of the calls, and the significant majority are the EMS calls. So that I do have. Why don't I stop there, and we will now switch to our local laws, if you're ready for that. And we will come back to my report when we're done with that part. So, Victoria Polidoro, our land use attorney, take it away.
Hi, everyone.
So just to let you know, when we have continued the public hearing for local law B for animal husbandry, and we have proposed 3 changes.
So you want to start, let's start with local law B then.
Okay. Nope, that's not it.
And with the hearing continued to what date?
To June 22nd.
Changes were reduce the setback from 100 to 75 feet for husbandry. In the honeybee section, it was to eliminate lot size requirement and reduce the setback from public sidewalks and roadways to 50 feet.
Yes.
Okay.
And to add notification of neighbors for the bees. And did you mention, you mentioned the going to 75 for the animal husbandry. I'll send you that summary.
Okay. So, at the last meeting, you had referred the amended version to Dutchess County Planning. So Jen, I think tomorrow, if you could just upload the version with these changes, then they'll get our final review letter on the final version, and we can ask for an expedited review.
And you saw that they came through with their response today.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I forwarded it to you, I believe.
I left the office a few hours ago, so.
They same response as the first time.
Okay, so actually, because
Matter
it's
of
a matter of
local
local concern, and I would consider these changes not substantive, I don't think another referral to county planning is warranted at this time.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we can consider that requirement met at this time.
Great.
So the public hearing was continued, but tonight, if you'd like, we can work through the seeker portion of it.
Yes, please.
So before you, you have Part 2 and Part 3 of the environmental assessment form. I took the liberty of filling in some answers how I thought they would be answered, but this is your document, so we should just walk through it and make sure that you agree with all the answers, or we can change them as needed. So for those of you that may not have done seeker before, this is where the board assesses the environmental impact of the local law. Here, because it's a local law, it's not, no one's actually building anything, that would have to come in for separate review. Most of the impacts are going to be presumed no. So first question, impact on land. I recommend the answer is no, because there's no physical disturbance. Each application would have to be reviewed on its own merits. Second question, impact on geological features. Again, the answer, I believe, is no. Impacts on surface water, may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. No. Impact on groundwater, result in new or additional use of groundwater or potential to introduce contaminants? No.
And that's primarily no, because we have required a setback from any water feature on someone's land, if they have wetlands or what have you, right?
We have setbacks in the law worked in, and also 2 animals are probably not going to rise to the level of a significant impact.
Good point.
It's not like it's a
Thank you.
CAFO or some kind of feeding operation where the waste is going to be significant. Impact on flooding, this is not going to impact flooding. Impacts on air, this has to do with regulated emissions like factories, that's going to be a no. Impacts on plants and animals, so this is in the negative. It may result in a loss of flora or fauna. No one's going to be cutting down forests to allow food animals. Impact on agricultural resources. I checked yes, only to identify a potential positive impact, which is that beekeeping may aid agricultural operations outside of the village. We're still an agricultural community in the town of Red Hook. Impact on aesthetic resources, I recommended no. Impact on historic and archaeological resources. This is checked yes, because the village contains a number of properties that are within the National Register of Landmark District, or the National Register of Historic Places. But if you review the sub-questions, I believe the impact will be small. Proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to any buildings listed on National or State Register of Historic Places. So it's possible that one of these properties that is included within the boundaries of the district may want to keep bees or have an animal that's subject to the law. So that answer is yes, but I believe it would be a small impact. Partly because historically a lot of these buildings had animals and they have B, proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to a sensitive archaeological site. Again, small impact. Wholly within or substantially contiguous to an archaeological site not included on SHPO inventory. No or small impact. I don't know what that would be because it's not included on the inventory. And then you don't have to answer the next sub-question. 11, impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or reduction in open space. No. 12, impact on a critical environmental area. You don't have any designated CEAs in the village, so that's a no. Impact on transportation. No impact. Impact on energy. This question is about things causing a significant increase in the use of energy, so no. Impact on noise, odor, and light. I checked this as a yes, as a potential discussion point, because that is probably the most likely complaint or end result of this law would be noise and odor impacts. It's actually why we're here in the first place.
A question about 15B, where it talks about blasting. I mean, is that, do they all have to be checked no? Because, I mean, that just seems irrelevant to...
It is irrelevant.
To this,
yeah,
so-
so once you check yes on like the main
Then they all
question,
need to
you
get
have
checked?
to answer
Oh, okay.
all the subheadings. So I agree. B is no. A is no impact. Noise level above village limits, probably not. Routine odors, no or small impact. Your law has, again, the buffers in it and some requirements on food containment that should prevent that. And then light, again, is no. 16, impact on human health. About this is with regards to exposure to sources of contaminants, so no. 17, consistency with community plans, and this is a double negative. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. And we check no.
It's not consistent or not inconsistent?
It's not consistent, so then it's a no, because I guess it is consistent. It's not inconsistent.
Oh, I got it.
It's a tough
Okay,
one.
that's a strange way to put
Yeah.
that. Yep.
So the proposed action.
Right.
Especially with the top, consistency with community plans. Yes, it is consistent, but they flipped it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
18, consistency with community character. This is another double negative. So I checked no, but if anyone feels that it's inconsistent with
Inconsistent
your
with the
existing
existing.
character, we can go through this.
That's good.
So then, if everyone's comfortable with the way part 2 is answered, we have to now complete part 3. And this is where you would evaluate the potential impacts, and we only identified 2 potential, which is impact on historic resources, impact on noise, odor, and light. And so there's a little paragraph in there, everyone can take a moment to read.
Oh, that's the little one at the bottom there?
Yeah. And I can already see there's an extra S in the word accessory.
The proposed local law would allow animal husbandry, the keeping of hens, the keeping of honeybees in the village, subject to regulations to minimize impacts on neighboring properties. There's a small potential impact on noise and odors in the village from farm animals, but the probability of the impact has been minimized by requiring site plan approval, limiting the size and number of animals on a property, providing a setback for such uses, and providing enforcement mechanisms. The accessory uses of animal husbandry, keeping of hens, and beekeeping would be permitted on some properties that may be in the National Register listed historic district, but no impacts to historic resources are anticipated, as all operations permitted under this law would likely occur outdoors or in outbuildings, many of which are historically used for the keeping of animals and hens. No significant adverse impacts will result from the adoption of this local law. Sounds good to me.
So then everything else is just form, completion of the form. And we have a resolution prepared, if you are ready, to adopt a determination of significance. Here, a negative declaration in connection with the proposed local law B, titled the local law regulating animal husbandry, hens, and honeybees in the
I have a question on 3. We talk about, in the second sentence, a small impact from noise, odors in the village from farm animals. And farm animals isn't a term, if I'm recalling correctly, we use anywhere else in the local law. Do we want to introduce farm animals here and just sort of change farm animals to animal husbandry? Because that's what we're calling it. We have all the definitions in the local law.
So that is a good point, and we can certainly do that. I used a more generic term because I didn't want to have to say animal husbandry, bees, and hens, but I think you're right, we should be more specific. We can say from animal husbandry.
But chickens might be smelly too.
Well,
Sorry.
well,
So we would change that to an odors in the village from animal husbandry, keeping of hens and bees.
Yeah. And then we're going to say site plan approval in some cases, because it doesn't apply to the.
Right.
Yep. I'll write that out.
What resolution is that? It was 24?
Number 25.
24.
That your resolution, the next one you're about to introduce is
Oh, it's number 25? I don't know where I just put the resolution. I was reading it.
Is it next to you?
Flipped it. Here we go. So do you generally read the whole resolution or just the whereas clause? I mean, just the.
I think that, I think all the whereases are basically everything we just went through. So you can hit the now therefore
Okay.
be it
Now
resolved.
therefore be it resolved by the board as follows. 1, the board hereby adopts a negative declaration finding that the adoption of the proposed local law will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts, and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be prepared. 2, the village clerk be and she hereby is directed to file notice of the negative declaration with the environmental notice bulletin.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Charlie. Any further discussions or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great.
Done. Okay,
The
so,
next deck is done, barring any substantive changes to the local law, which would, change this discussion we just had.
right, and the changes that we're proposing are the ones that we already told you that we have. So we will make that adjustment, we'll put that out there, we'll have our public hearing on the 22nd, and barring any further commentary, we will be in a position to pass that law at that time. Super. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to local law A, right?
So for local law A, you should have a very similar packet, which is parts 2 and 3 of the environmental assessment form.
I don't know.
I don't think I got
Did you provide that prior to the prior meeting? Or was that recent?
No, they were emailed to you.
So the form is the same.
Yeah.
So if we look at
walk
the,
through it.
if we look at the form and you just let us know how you answered, that will, and then we can print out copies for folks after.
Okay, so the first question is impact on land. Proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of land surface.
And just as a reminder, this is a local law to allow a
Single,
1.5 square foot sign that is allowed to be internally illuminated when the business is open, one per business, and the illumination needs to be a fixed illumination. It cannot be flashing or moving. So that's the law that we are discussing.
right.
So impact on land.
So here the answer is no. I mean, the signs are going to go into windows of existing structure. There'll be no new disturbance. 2, impact on geological features. No, for the same reasons. 3, impact on surface water. No. Impact on groundwater. No. Impact on flooding. No. Impact on air. No. Impact on plant and animals. No. Impact on agricultural resources? No. Impact on aesthetic resources? The question here asks, the land use of the proposed action are obviously different from, or in sharp contrast to, current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. So this question is really asking about an identified aesthetic resource. A very obvious example is when you pull over on the side of the road and it says scenic viewpoint here. That's a protected designated scenic resource. Arguably, your village of Red Hook, being a landmark district, is its own scenic resource. But I checked no. Of course, this is your question. Part of the reason I checked no is because many of these signs already exist, and it's part of the character of your community.
Does anyone think we should answer differently on this question?
No.
Well, current land use patterns, I think, covers what you mentioned, so they're basically there, whether it's in the code or not. So
Great.
that seems to make sense.
Okay, thank you. Good. So that's no.
Okay, 10, impact on historic and archaeological resources. This is checked yes, because it does involve some properties, or could involve properties that are in a historic district. But I've checked small impact or no impact for all of the potential impacts.
Okay.
11, impact on open space and recreation, no. 12, impact on critical environmental areas, no. 13, impact on transportation, no. 14, impact on energy, no. 15, impact on noise, odor, or light, no.
Just going back to impact on energy, the notion is, because it says may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy, I'm assuming it's a significant increase. I mean, arguably, if someone doesn't currently have a light and they're now going to have a light, they're going to use some electricity.
Correct. Let me just read through the sub-questions to give everyone an idea of the type of increases they're talking about.
Okay.
So A, proposed action will require a new or upgrade to an existing substation. B, proposed action will require the creation or extension of an energy transmission or supply system to serve more than 50 single or two-family residences. C, proposed action may utilize more than 2,500 megawatts per year of electricity. Or D, proposed action may involve heating or cooling of more than 100,000 square feet of building area.
Gotcha.
So if you're looking at this compared to those threshold questions, it does fall.
It is definitely no. Thank you.
16, impact on human health, no.
What did you say for 15?
15, I put no, increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. But we could put yes, and then go through the sub-questions.
Yeah, it looks like just the last two are relevant to lighting. The proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties, which,
Probably not, because
It's gonna be in the window.
requirement here, the allowance is in a window, so the light's going to shine onto the village property.
and then
And when the thing is open as well, so the lights would presumably be on in the building. So there already is light impact,
Right,
yeah, it's
there
not
already
changing
is.
anything.
the proposed action may result in lighting creating sky glow brighter than existing area conditions, and that's clearly no.
So I'm going to go ahead and check yes, and then check no, indicating that you reviewed
Okay,
those questions.
okay. That's fair.
Impact on human health, no. Consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. I put no, but we can talk through these. I mean, arguably, it's inconsistent with county and regional land use plans. We did get a letter from the Department of County Planning indicating their aversion to any illuminated signage in the whole county. So let's change that to a yes and let's talk. Okay. A, proposed actions, components may be different from or in sharp contrast to the surrounding land use patterns. I'm recommending no or small impact because this is already prevalent throughout the village. B,
Now, when they use the words land use, I mean, it's obviously not I mean, it's putting a small sign in a window. That's not really a land use
Not really.
change. Okay.
The proposed action will cause the permanent population of the city, town, or village to grow more than 5%. This is not a growth-inducing action.
No.
No. The proposed action is inconsistent with local land use plans or zoning regulations. It is to the extent it is changing those regulations, so small impact. The proposed action is inconsistent with any county plans. I'd say small impact. Greenway does discourage internally illuminated signage. E, proposed action may cause a change in density of development. No. F, proposed action is located in an area characterized by low-density development that will require new or expanded infrastructure. Sign will not going to require that. Proposed action may induce secondary development impacts. No. And then 18, consistency with community character. Proposed project is inconsistent with existing community character, and I checked no, meaning it is not consistent.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions on the part 2?
Makes sense.
You guys good? Okay.
So then I'll read some draft language for part 3, and we can talk through it, amend it as needed. This is under the section, reasons supporting this determination. The proposed local law would allow each business to have a single internally illuminated, non-flashing window sign. The law is proposed in response to a large number of businesses in the village which already have these signs in their windows, which are typically used to alert passerby to the business being open. These signs contribute to the vitality of the streetscape and assist businesses with attracting customers, which is crucial for the continued success and growth of the village business center. As these signs are already part of the community, no significant aesthetic impact is anticipated to result from the legalization of such signs.
Can you add in the very first sentence, only illuminated during business hours or something?
Yep. Which is only illuminated during...
Any other additions or comments?
I think it's good.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so then this we do have a resolution here which does several things. It says, now therefore be it resolved by the board as follows. 1, the board hereby adopts a negative declaration finding that the adoption of the proposed local law will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be prepared. 2, the board hereby adopts the proposed local law as local law number 1 of 2023, the local law. 3, the village clerk be and she hereby is directed to enter said local law in the minutes of the meeting and in the village code of the village of Red Hook, to give due notice of the adoption of the local law to the Secretary of State and take all other actions as required by law. And 4, the village clerk be and she hereby is directed to file notice of the neg deck with the environmental notice both. Now, just a reminder, county planning had comments on this, which does require a supermajority vote of the board to adopt. Their comments were addressed, I believe, in the body of the law.
Yeah, everyone got a copy of those.
Yes. I did have a question regarding that. It did say that a letter needed to be written if we did choose to vote against their recommendation.
So we can do a few things. I did add a sentence to this resolution that says, whereas proposed local law was referred to Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, which responded on June 1 that the village not adopt the local law unless it clarified that only one sign is permitted per each non-residential entity. And whereas the proposed local law does limit the number of permitted signs to 1 per business, so we could send this as the report, or if you'd like, you can direct and authorize the mayor to send a more substantive letter.
Okay.
That works for me. Okay, so you need a motion to pass this resolution. Resolution
moved.
number 26. Thank you, Kim. Second?
Second.
Yep.
Thank you, Steve. Any further questions, discussion?
One question, I mean, it talks about, you know, in the letter from Dutchess County, the pattern book and architectural guidelines. Is that something that we should consider, you know, updating just to make it consistent with this at some point in the future?
Yeah, they're referencing that because the village, and correct me when I say this wrong, because the village submitted the pattern book and the architectural guidelines to be part of the comprehensive plan, sort of an amendment to the comprehensive plan.
It's an amendment to the comprehensive plan, and it's also an appendix to the zoning law. So the text of the law rules over the guidebook, but yes, if you want to put in, we can update the guidebook to say, you know, 1 illuminated sign like this, give an example, certainly. And it sounds like we have some other local laws coming up, so that's something we could include.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm going to do a roll call for this vote. Trustee Lang?
Aye.
Trustee Kjarval?
Aye.
Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor Kjarval. Trustee Appenzeller?
Aye.
Trustee Bradley Reichert?
Aye.
And I am also an aye. Okay, so that's passed. We have a new local law. Number
So,
1.
Jen, I'll follow up with you on the changes and get everything filed.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. You have made this complex process easier for us all.
Yeah, well, I mean, the sign law is easy, animal husbandry is a little bit harder, but you guys are working through it, so.
But I think we're working through it to get it right so that we don't have to come, we can now just implement it when we get there. And I think that's, I've learned a lot about beekeeping in this process. What's that? New hobby? I don't think so. I didn't mention that the gentleman who came to talk to me about it actually had a bee sting in his hand. He did say he had stuck his hand into his beehive. And I said, "You didn't have a glove on?" And he said, "No." Okay.
Call that assumption of risk.
Well, exactly. Exactly. So thank you very much. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you. I will see everyone.
Do you have that
Sounds like a plan. It's almost not dark out yet.
Did you have that
Still.
resolution in your packet?
No.
Okay, so I will now go back to my reports. I finished the fire department report. I have a personnel report. I just wanted to let you all know that Doris Balachik-Schuing is working on special projects for the village. She is currently focused on reviewing documents and assisting with classification and storage. Brendan Witten is a high school intern getting his final credits for school by working a few hours a week in the clerk's office. And we are in the process of interviewing for a replacement deputy village clerk following the resignation of Anna Marie Gruntler-Busey in March. More on that later in the meeting. And account clerk Angela Dortis and I have been meeting with ADP, which is our payroll processing company, to set up a new system for recording employee time. Starting within the next couple of months, we will begin a new time and attendance system using ADP's Timekeep kiosk app. Currently, employees punch in with physical punch cards. The ADP system will have employees punching in via a tablet located in a similar location to the current punch clocks. In addition to automatically recording time for payroll, the system will automatically keep track of all time off and remaining balances as well. Under insurance, the medical insurance carrier has been successfully switched from MVP to CDPHP as of May 1, 2023. It is projected to be a slight reduction in cost from the prior year. I'll just point that out again, a slight reduction in cost. I don't know that I've ever overseen a reduction in cost for health insurance in my variety of careers. So this is an exciting prospect. The good news is it's not an increase. It is, however, the deductible amounts that are variable, so we won't know for sure until the end of the year when we review the final costs. Building and Zoning Department, I just wanted to mention that Z3 Consulting started their contract to provide building inspection, zoning, and code enforcement services for the village. Realizing, I don't know if you have that in your report. I apologize if I'm saying what you're saying, but Gary Beck oversees everything. Thomas, who goes by Tom Keith, is focused on code enforcement. William, who goes by Bill Jahosky, is focused on building inspection and zoning enforcement. And these are the gentlemen that we just appointed to those positions. And the Northern Duchess Alliance Executive Committee did not have a meeting in May. And I have the sewer project report. We are still working on punch list. We had our last formal biweekly meeting on May 5th. That was our 35th progress meeting. And so there's a list of punch list items that both the general contractor, Carver's Construction, needs to complete, and then Sousto Contracting, the electrical contractor, also has punch list items. And just as one note to residents who are in the sewer use district, if you have any concerns with the restoration of your property, now is the time. Carver will be coming back this week or next to focus on all of the restoration issues that have come up. So now is the time to let us know. I forward that to the contractor and they address it. But that's where we are on the sewer project in terms of operation. I hesitate to say this, but I think it is going relatively smoothly. And our highway department has been learning all of the details of how it all functions and have been embracing the prospect, whether they like it or not, that we are now in the sewer business. So that's for infrastructure. I am also doing the library report. The library has announced the hiring of a new library manager, Alex Geller. He is to start on June 5th. Their request for an additional $12,000 was voted on at the same time as the school board candidates and the school budget vote on May 16. The proposition passed. The budget collected by the school district for the Red Hook Public Library will now be $208,400. The Red Hook Public Library Board met on May 18th at 6:30 in the library conference room. Red Hook Village resident Lorraine, who goes by Lolly Humphrey, and I attended the board meeting. The board reported on their 510 personnel meeting and discussed the onboarding of the new manager. The board also continues to formalize various prior actions, including hiring, terminations, and resignations. Under the treasurer's report, there was a discussion of the garbage tag sales and accounting thereof. I confirmed that the village is receiving all the correct money owed to the village for garbage tags. The monthly audit is working well for the village. The library treasurer indicated after discussion with their new bookkeeper that due to the timing of the deposits and month-end closing, the income and expenses shown on the library's financial reports will not match within the month. The library now has income and expense lines specifically for garbage tags. The policy committee is working on some bylaw changes. The current bylaws can be found on the library's website. The board will be drafting a budget line policy to have the board approve a change in a budget line only when a line item has changed more than 10%. The library's hired a new landscaper, Transformation Landscaping, to cut the grass and general groundskeeping. The interim manager, Toby Tiger, gave his report, including a program report that acknowledged a large drop in programs and attendees in April, which is not surprising given the large turnover of staff around that time. May shows more activities and more attendees. Toby mentioned that the employees are writing processes and procedures to be used for training in the future. The library has received a nice bequest from the estate of Catherine I don't know how to pronounce this, Danges, and the board continues to discuss how best to use the bequest based on the criteria given and the person who gave it. The board requested that I change the word elects to appoints for the village's action regarding library board members. It is a point well taken for future reference to our actions. During public comment, Lolly Humphrey shared her long history as a resident of Red Hook and grateful user of the library. She is especially grateful for the home services and Renee Zhang, in particular, for her ongoing help in receiving these services. Lolly also mentioned her appreciation for the former program director, Amy Smith. As part of the onboarding of the new library manager, Alex was introduced to various members of the community on May 25th prior to his start date. I met with library trustee Amy Houston and Alex at Village Hall on that day and welcomed Alex to the Red Hook community. That is my library report.
Can I add one thing?
You may.
The elects is the term that's used by the New York State in the actual law about us, how we go about the process. So it's just technically correct.
Okay.
Whether or not
That's probably where I
appoints-
got it,
yeah.
when I put it in. I remember thinking about that word, and
It's
so.
awkward. It sounds awkward because it does seem like we're appointing them, but it uses the word elects in the New York State law. So that's
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. That's helpful. Okay, I'm also doing the highway report. Pickup of brush, leaves, and yard debris is scheduled for the first week of every month, pending weather conditions and scheduling. It takes more than a day to get all around the village, and also because garbage pickup is taking a little longer than it normally does on Mondays. Pickup is scheduled for once a month through the fall, and residents are reminded to place lawn debris and leaves together, and then brush separately, and tree branches no larger than 6 inches in diameter, brush that includes tree trunks. Ooh, I put tree trucks, that would be tree trunks. Stumps, garbage, or construction material will not be picked up. Revenue of $723.60 was generated from the sale of scrap metal during the month of May. The total revenue generated from the sale of scrap metal this fiscal year 2022 to 2023 is $4,014.60. Since the inception of the scrap metal recycling program in September of 2007, $47,878.06 has been generated. Proceeds from this program goes toward purchasing tools and equipment for the Village Highway Water and Materials Management Department. If anyone is interested in donating scrap metal, they may contact Village Highway Department, which is 758-8600, or the Village Clerk's Office, 758-1081. Highway Department personnel will assist property owners by picking up scrap metal upon request. Street cleaning was completed in late April, early May, prior to Apple Blossom Day. The garbage truck remains out of service. The Highway Department is using other equipment to collect garbage. Please have patience, as this process takes a little longer than usual. In other words, don't take your garbage bags back in too soon. We have a quote for a new body that picks up garbage and leaves. However, we are waiting for a quote for the appropriate size truck bed. Currently looking for potential used trucks. The team is managing the garbage pickup. It's leaf pickup in the fall that will create significant issues if we haven't gotten a replacement truck. The service truck engine has broken down. This truck is used for water and highway projects and tasks. Highway Foreman Jake Smith has reviewed several options, including repairing the existing engine, which is estimated at $4,500, to purchasing a new engine, which is estimated at $5,000, ending with a recommendation to purchase a used engine for $2,500. Based on use, this cost will be charged 75% to the water fund, which is code EW 8320.49, and 25% to the general fund, which is A 5110.41. And he has been directed to proceed in the purchase of that used engine. And then hydrant flushing will take place in late June or early July. Once schedule has been determined, we will communicate it out to the public. Those are my reports. Okay, on to Trustee Lang.
Okay. Let me start off with materials management, and I'll just run through the report for May, but then add just a summary of the year's business in comparison to the previous year, because I think that will be of interest. So for the month of May, we picked up 1.05 tons of commingled, 0.83 tons of cardboard, 1.3 tons of paper, for a total recycling of 3.18 tons. And we also picked up 7.02 tons of garbage. We sold $2,625 worth of tags, and the total costs for the garbage and the fuel levy, and admittedly a small amount of contaminated recycling, came to $841.06. And just comparing this past year with the previous year, it's actually very, very close. We picked up ever so slightly more recycling and garbage over the course of the previous year than we did this past year. And the dollars of tags sold are almost identical. One thing that did go up, and by quite a lot, was this fuel surcharge that we are charged by the recycling Accra people. But you know, the numbers are very similar. So that's good. I mean, we would love to be, you know, handling more residents of the village's garbage and recycling, but at least we're not fading away yet.
It looks like contamination was cut in half, which is great.
Yes, I meant to point that out. I mean, it doesn't amount to very much over the course of a year. I mean, it's frustrating for us that, you know, it still sneaks in there at times, but yes. The previous year it was almost $30 cost to us over the course of the year. This year it was less than 15.
And if we hadn't had the month of May, it would have been even less. We did not have a good month of May.
Yeah.
But yeah, nice to see
So
that it's
that's
less.
an improvement. That's going the right way.
Yes, it is.
I also have the water system operations report for the month of May. So during the month of May, the water treatment facility treated 7,504,700 total gallons, which is an average of 242,100 gallons per day. Quite an uptick from the past couple of months. It has been very dry, it has been hot, and we had a major fire.
Yeah.
So those are all contributing factors. We're still, well, we're at a very similar level for this month last year. Let's hope it levels out a bit. We also tested, took 3 bacteriological samples from different parts of the system for testing, and they all came back absent for coliform and E. coli. So it was great. I don't think in the 6 years I've been reporting, I've never seen a hit. So that's great.
That's good news.
Chemical usage during the month of May, the water treatment plant used 75 gallons of sodium hypochlorite, average daily use of 2.4 gallons a day. And I think you pointed out, Mayor, that there were a few days, particularly during the month, where water volume is higher than normal.
Yeah, I was expecting it to be higher for the fire at Migliorelli Farm.
Yes.
And I believe that was the 19th,
Right.
which
Which
definitely
was
has significantly
definitely one
higher
of the
than
higher
average.
days. Yes,
But
but there
there
were
are-
other higher days in there too.
26th.
Yeah, the 26th is a high day as well.
Yeah.
Even higher than that. So, because just to clarify, when the Migliorelli Farm fire happened, there were, oh gosh, more than 10 fire companies who were here, and their water trucks were coming into the village, filling up at different fire hydrants, and then going back, dumping
Yeah.
them, coming back. It was like a loop for hours. So that is very clear that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's something to investigate, to ask the question, is what happened on the 26th
And the 17th.
and the 17th. Yes,
Right.
exactly.
And I also have a report from the Sawkill watershed community.
And before you do that, just to give a brief update on the WIA grant, which is
Okay,
related
yes.
to the water projects. You weren't planning to do that, were you?
No.
And just to say that the financing has now been approved, which means that the financing closing happened on June 8th, and so we are basically now ready to go. So the engineer, Delaware Engineering, has been doing a lot of prep work, so we are in good position to proceed. So I think more of a report, I think, would be make sense for next month of the projects and how we're laying them out and how that's going to look. But that's good news.
Yeah. Excellent. Right. Well, I did attend a Sawkill watershed community meeting last month. So the Sawkill watershed community met for the first time in person since the pandemic in the Red Hook Town Hall on May 16th. In attendance were representatives from BARD and their Community Science Monitoring Program, a representative from the town's Conservation Advisory Committee, and the new director of the Hudson River Watershed Alliance. And the meeting focused primarily on getting back to business and post-COVID reorganization, with discussion of past work such as the amphibians project, field trips and water sampling, and talk of future opportunities and priorities. The group is looking for a fiscal sponsor so it can develop into a 501c3, a formal not-for-profit organization that will be eligible for grant funding and grant processing. It would also like to increase its awareness, visibility, and they did mention they would like to have a link for the group's webpage on the village website as well as the town's website. So I'm pretty sure we can facilitate that, which would be a simple thing to do. And they have an excellent website with some great links there.
Great.
And so they are, getting back together, back organized, and they have another meeting scheduled for June 20th, although that one will be back on Zoom. I think they're trying to figure out, they used to meet regularly in the Elmendorf, but for some reason insurance requirements made that complicated or added a cost to that. I didn't quite understand why that would be the case, but
And obviously, Village Hall is also an available option.
right.
Feel free to make that offer
Yeah.
as well. Great. That cover it? for
Yes.
you? Great. Deputy Mayor Kjarval, sorry.
The following two reports are being compiled by Mayor Smythe until I am able to step back fully into my role following partial family leave, and she already read them, of course, the Red Hook Public Library report and the Highway report. Red Hook Together met at 5:30 p.m. at June 1st at Mill Road Primary School in the 3-5 library. We were treated to a tour of the new STEAM lab, which featured innovative lighting and furniture and was an exciting display of what Dr. Janet Warden, explained to us as the future in educational spaces. The rest of the session was a meet and greet with attendees promoting their upcoming projects and events. The Red Hook Town Economic Development Committee. Bi-weekly meetings have been taking place at the Village Hall on alternating Wednesdays at 8:40 a.m. May 24th meeting's discussion focused on the Minarelli barn fire and exploring grant opportunities for tours and promotions. Detailed minutes can be found on the town website. Village of Red Hook Communications Committee. The Communications Committee meets every first Wednesday of the month at 1:30 p.m. in the Village Hall Conference Room. This month's meeting was tabled due to no pressing agenda items. Village of Red Hook's Hardscrabble and Events Committee. The Events Committee meets on the third Monday of each month at 6 p.m. at Village Hall. May's Neighbor Night was a great success, and the committee was very pleased to present former Deputy Mayor Brent Kowalczyk with a picnic table featuring a plaque honoring his many decades of service to the village. Next Neighbors Nights are on Friday, July 14th in Abrams Park and Friday, September 22nd in the municipal parking lot. Preparations for this year's Hardscrabble taking place September 23rd, 2023 are ongoing. If you would like to sponsor a picnic table, volunteer for an event, or sign up for a booth on Hardscrabble Day, please contact us by email at events@redhooknyvillage.org.
Can I just interrupt? I think it's worth mentioning that the Neighbors' Night on Friday, July 14th, I believe we're talking about you doing it from 4 to 6 p.m.
You're right, yes.
Because there's the Eat and Go music starting at 6. So lots of action in the village on the 14th of July.
Thank you for that clarification. The Village of Red Hook Human Relations Committee. The Human Relations Committee meets every first Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. in the Village Hall Conference Room. Preparations for the exhibit We Are Neighbors are underway, as a pop-up exhibit will take place during the July 14th Neighbors Night. And we officially have 51 portraits, so we are going to order the portraits tomorrow.
That is very exciting. Great. Okay, on to Trustee Bradley Reichert.
Okay, the Village Green Committee report for May, the current balance is $7,674.32 with no new activity on community beautification or a shade tree. There were no Village Green Committee meetings held during the month of May, and Dave Pearson, the chair, and I are hoping to meet this month to discuss potential beautification projects as well as member recruitment. And residents and businesses interested in having a tree or multiple planted in their adjacent village street or New York State Highway right-of-ways, volunteering for planting days or sponsoring for a Village Green Committee beautification project may contact either David Pearson or myself or the clerk, Jen Kavanaugh. For the sewer department, as the sewer is still new, we're working on the understandings of the ins and outs and how it works and what testing needs to be done. The mayor and I will be meeting with C3ND to discuss what needs to happen. And we addressed changing the owner from the Red Hook Commons to the Village of Red Hook as it's officially in our stead. And we acknowledge that there is a plan to divert the Red Hook Commons plant to the new wastewater treatment plant for Delaware to do a full inspection of the plant. At this time, we are still waiting for an all clear to go ahead to schedule that switchover and inspection. There are some areas that need updating and fixing, and the village is in conversation with C3ND about the best route of action and what is needed for those fixes to come into play. For the monthly report of April that we just received, there is a monthly average usage of 0.052 million gallons per day of water through both the Red Hook Commons and the Village of Red Hook Sewer. And that is it for sewer. And for the speed limit initiative, research is underway to understand the process and steps required to undergo a speed limit change within the village to 25 miles an hour as allowed by recently passed law in Albany. As there are multiple nuances in the village, particularly the state highways and county roads and school zones, the ability to lower the speed limit is a bit trickier than in other places. So we are doing preliminary research with traffic engineers to conduct a requested traffic study. There is still discussion underway about the best way to tackle the speed limit, if we want to do a zoned entire village limit or doing specific linear speed limit reductions. And the village is in conversation with the school district to potentially team up as part of the New York Forward grant application of initiating a school zone speed limit in conjunction with the lower village speed limit. This would help the overall case for lowering the speed limit, and at this time that the report was written, there was a meeting on the books for the village representatives, Mayor Smythe, now Deputy Mayor Kjalval, and myself to discuss the traffic and roadways and continued collaboration for the New York Forward and 25-mile-an-hour speed limit initiative. And that is the end of my reports.
Super, thank you. Okay, Trustee Appenzeller.
Okay, first is the building department. Obviously, there were some staffing changes which we discussed and were incorporated into Resolution 22 that we approved earlier. As far as activity, there were 9 building permits issued, 2 certificates of occupancy, and 4 certificates of completion, and 1 municipal search. There were no orders to remedy or stop work orders or court appearances, and there were 3 fire inspections. There were 3 complaints, one of which was at 25 Fisk Street for property management or maintenance, which has been remedied. As far as planning board actions, on the May 11th meeting, there was signage approval granted to a property at 7 East Market Street, which is the new stationery store, which I went into this weekend. Lovely stuff there, and the folks are really nice. Site plan approval was granted to a property located at 7373-7375 South Broadway, the dance studio. At the May 25th Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, there was an interpretation appeal for 25 Fisk Street, which was tabled to June 22nd meeting. There was a resolution to reverse determination of code enforcement officer was approved in the interpretation appeal application of 26 Elizabeth Street for illegal 3-family use. The decision was granted as the 3-family was a pre-existing non-conforming use, and there was a total of $7,769 of fees collected associated with those activities.
Super.
For the public spaces, it was a very busy month. Public meetings are held the 4th Saturday of each month at 10 a.m. in person at Village Hall unless otherwise noted. The next meeting is coming up on June 24th. The first activity was a very successful Hello Spring Native Flower Festival, which was held at the Community Center on Saturday, May 21st. It showcased the pollinator garden and seed common area. It was great. This was the first activity that I was able to participate in, and it was fantastic. It was held inside the auditorium because the weather was fairly threatening that day, although the rain fortunately held off for the most part. There were a lot of activities, including a pollinator plant, an insect information table, a free book drawing, which was a great book about landscaping provided by member Betsy Brewer, an Ask a Master Gardener table with 2 master gardeners. And it was a fantastic opportunity for folks to learn a lot, and I would include myself as one of those people who took advantage of learning from them. They also had a couple of flats of local native plants, and all of those were given away during the activity. There was an artist station with local artists drawing and painting, and a lot of kid areas for decorating seed packets, egg carton plantings, and creating seed balls. And live music was performed by Perry Allen and Jim Rogers. And estimated 40 to 50 people attended, possibly more. It wasn't something where there was a real formal count, but it was a really nicely attended event. 5 attendees filled out cards requesting more information about the committee, along with submitting their request for the book in the raffle. And there were also quite a few other new people who signed up the sign-in sheet. And as I mentioned before, of the 50 plants that were brought as takeaways, none were left. And the Rotary Club helped in a pretty substantial way. There were 3 volunteers for setup, running stations, and breaking down the event. The PSI team considered the event successful, and will be discussing next year's possibility at that next meeting, which I mentioned is coming up on the 24th. Also in discussion is looking at a fall festival event in October, possibly at Abraham's Park in collaboration with local artists and farms, and a community pumpkin carving event along with a lighting celebration once done. On June 3rd, the PSI team participated in the very successful historic Red Hook Then and Now event at the Elmendorf. The event went well, and the PSI had a team table set up next to the pollinator garden that was installed for the inn. David Sokol worked on the design and planting, and a lot of positive feedback was received from historic Red Hook board members as well as visitors to the event. And the master gardener, Linda DeGasper, was present and spoke to quite a few people who stopped by the table for information about the garden and local planting. There aren't any planned events during the summer, but the meeting in June will discuss what activities, might take place in the summer and also reflect back on the first part of the year. And follow-up is planned with all those interested folks who left their name and contact information. So that's the PSI report for this month.
Steve, can I add something?
Sure.
If you guys, I know that you're the liaison, but can you mention to them if they're interested in doing the pumpkin carving, that maybe they'd want to coordinate with the events with the Halloween parade?
That's
Just
a great.
keep that in mind.
No, that's a great idea.
And we have, do we have a date for the,
Not that I know of, but I saw the
yeah, no, so it'll be the weekend before, so it'll either be Saturday the 28th or Sunday the 29th. So yeah,
definitely mention that.
coordinating that would be great.
wonderful. Thank
What
you.
is,
So we'll be doing a Halloween parade like we did last year, and it'd be a fun thing to sort of combine the whole thing in some way. That would be kind of a cool thing.
That'd be
So,
great.
And one possibility is we could have the parade march over and end up at Abraham's Park, or something like that. Anyway, opportunities for
Yeah.
discussion and collaboration. I do have, I would like us to go into executive session. It would be a short one regarding personnel and hiring. This would be a short one, so I'd like you guys both to stick around, if you would. I'm jumping the gun. I'm putting executive session above the other remaining things, but if I could get a motion to adjourn to executive session?
So moved?
Thank you. Second?
second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. So we're going to disappear for just a few minutes. I would say 5-10 minutes max. And we'll be back shortly. Do I need to reopen the public hearing? Motion to reopen the public session?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. What we have before us is a resolution authorizing the appointment of Diana Devens to the position of deputy clerk. Whereas the...
Resolution 27?
27, awesome. The Village of Red Hook Board is authorized to appoint, by village law, to appoint a qualified person to the position of deputy clerk to fill a vacancy. We have, by resolution, provided a modification for the residency requirements to all appointed officers to include residency within the county in which the village is located. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Red Hook as follows. Diana Devens is hereby appointed to the position of Deputy Village Clerk for the applicable term as provided by law, pursuant to Section 3-302A of the New York Village Law. Diana Devens need not reside in the Village of Red Hook, but may reside anywhere in the County of Dutchess, State of New York. Just for your information, she lives in the town of Red Hook. Diana Devens will have a starting salary of $17 per hour. This resolution shall take effect immediately. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I can tell you that Jen and I are both very excited with this appointment, so thank you very much. Any general business, other general business?
I have two quick announcements. June 20th, there is a Board of Education special election, which will be held at Mill Road Elementary School, and it's to fill a vacancy of Kevin Storrs, who was a board member who sadly passed away during his term. There are two candidates, Charlie Kachagian and Fernando Dongo, and I would recommend everyone become familiar with the candidates and go and vote.
Terrific. Thank you for that reminder. And you had two announcements?
Oh, and this coming Friday, the Red Hook Education Foundation, of which I used to be a board member, is having its annual benefit at the Spiegel Tent, which is always a fun event and helps raise funds to support programming at the Red Hook Central Schools. And it'd be a great event if people have the time and ability to attend.
Wonderful. Any other general business? Hearing none. Any public comment? There's no one here physically. No one's on Zoom. So we'll take that as a no. I don't know if I don't think we've not done a motion to pay bills after audit. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Charlie will take that motion. Steve, you want to be second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Just a note regarding the vouchers. They are upstairs in the conference room, and Lori will be planning to cut checks on Wednesday morning. So if you could do that before then, that would be terrific. Okay, without any further business that I'm aware of, I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Kim, all in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you. Excellent meeting. Lots of good stuff done.